Hi. First of all, I want to thank all of you that already watched my green asparagus risotto video. Thank you for your enthusiasm and your kind support. This is just the beginning of this new project. In these videos, I'll try to tell you about the recipes I love and that for various reasons became a part of my family life and traditions. I'll try to tell you what I learned about their origin, their history, and the researches I made to study them, their preparation, and the story of how they came into my heart. I love this kind of gastronomical archaeology because knowing the origin and history of a recipe is a big part of the pleasure of cooking and eating it. Since I think that the recipes are a living thing, this will not be a museum because they are alive. They change, they evolve following the preferences of the cook, of the people they are prepared for, and the viability of the ingredients and how they have changed over time. Very often, traditional recipes have several variations. Not only every country, region, town, village has its own version, but every family has its own indeed. The recipes I give you in these videos are my own way, the result of my researches, my experience, and my experiments. Every suggestion, information, and constructive criticism will always be welcome. The tools we have nowadays to share thought, knowledge, ideas, and experiences are a wonderful resource. So come on with your comments. I hope that together we will make this project grow. This particular video is for my friends Giulio and Eleonora. I provided them with all the needed ingredients so that once back in Milan, they'll be able to make Radicci e fasiòi and share it with their friends after dismantling a Christmas tree and a decoration. The pasta e fasiòi, sopa de fasiòi, also known as cioccolato della monna, later we will see the reason of this funny name, is a traditional recipe of Treviso, basically made by two main ingredients, two excellences of my homeland. Lamon beans. Lamon is a small village on the Pre-Alps beneath the province of Trento and Treviso, and the Treviso late red chicory, il radicchio rosso tardivo di Treviso. These are two products that alone would deserve a chapter, and that I will tell you about in detail in next videos if you like. The main ingredients to make this recipe are obviously the lemon beans, celery, green celery, carrots, and onions. I use these onions that are French onion, oignon douce de Cévennes, and I like them very much because they are really sweet and they melt, literally melt when you cook them. So it will become a cream that will mix with the beans. We also have the radicchio rosso di Treviso that we will prepare later. And here I have some preserved in oil aubergines that I made this summer because lately I tried to dress the radicchio with the oil from one of this jar, and it was really beautiful. We will see this recipe in one of the next videos. So now let's see how to prepare pasta e fasiòi. The first step is to take your lemon beans. You see, since they are dried beans, look how smooth they are. You have to soak them in water overnight, at least for 10-12 hours. So I use 80 grams of beans for each person. That correspond approximately to 2 handfuls of beans. So for 4 people, you have to put 8 handfuls of beans in a bowl, and one more for good measure. Then you have to cover them in water, cold tap water is fine. Then you will see that after some hours the beans will have some wrinkles on them, and you have to wait more hours to have them back smooth in the surface. That will be the point when they have soaked enough water to be cooked. So after putting them in water, cover the bowl with a lid or some film and put the bowl in the fridge to avoid the beans to ferment. They already have wrinkled up. So now we have to let them soak for more hours till they become smooth again. So now we have left the beans in the water overnight, and as you can see, they have no more wrinkles on them, and they are much bigger because they absorbed a lot of water during this time. And now they are ready to be cooked. But first we have to make another step. So now the second step of the preparation is to cook, to stir fry and braise the onion and the other vegetables. We begin with the onions, and this step you can make even the day before. So when the beans will be already soaked in water, you will have no other operation to do but put them in the pot and cook them. So you cut the roots of the onion and the other part. Then you cut them in half and peel them. And you know that this particular recipe, my mother used to make it when I was a child, and I remember that when I come back home from school in the Wednesday, I was allowed to read Mickey Mouse magazine while I eat pasta e fagioli. So it's a really happy childhood memory for me. And I always think about this when I prepare and eat this recipe. Okay. Now you have to slice them really thin, because they have to melt while you cook them. Or 3D. Okay, so when you finish cutting them, you have to take an heavy bottom pot, quite a high and a big one, according to the quantity of beans you have to cook, and then put in the cold pot the onion. You see, it's quite a big volume of onion, but how we said previously, this will literally melt while you cook it. Then you put a generous quantity of olive oil. and a couple of pinches of salt. Okay, we put the pot on the fire. At the beginning we keep the fire at a high heat, and we have to stir it to coat all the onion with oil. We place the lid on because the vegetation liquid of the onion have to collect at the bottom of the pot to caramelize and to start braising the onion itself. While the onion is cooking, we can prepare the carrot. One big carrot is okay for this quantity of soup. We peel, and a few minutes ago we talked about my mother, and I have to say that my mother is a black belt at the 10th dan of pasta e fasiòi, and I studied at her dojo. So this recipe is even dedicated to my mother. So the carrot you have to cut in not too small pieces, because later you have to pick them out of the pot to blend them. So I cut usually in two and then in a half. And we will put in a pot later. The celery, we need just a piece like this, and we will put it in the pot after the beans. Okay, so now I hear that the onion is start releasing its water. You see how much volume it lost in only 5 minutes, and it start to soften too. Let's take a look at the onion. You see it has released the water, and it is beginning to dry. So now we have to lower the flame a little bit, because the few water that is still in the pot have to caramelize, but not to burn, obviously. And we let it cook for 10-15 minutes more. Okay, now we have cooked the onion for 10-12 minutes more with a lower heat and without the lid on. And you see how soft it became, and that the bottom of the pan of the pot is beginning to caramelize and brown a little, and this is exactly what we want. We can reduce the heat even more, not too much. Okay, and at this point we can even put the carrot in. And now we have to let it cook some minutes more till it became a beautiful golden brown color. But we have to be careful and stir it often to avoid the onion to burn. And you can hear that the water has completely gone, because it makes a higher noise, because the water is no more bubbling, and it's only the oil that is frying. So it's not more, no more a bubbling noise of slightly boiling water, but a frying noise. Okay, now see how much it has reduced its volume, and that is really begin to sticking to the bottom of the pot. Now we have to put some white dry wine, nearly a glass of, to clean the bottom of the pan. Okay, we let the alcohol to evaporate, and then we are ready to put the beans. We have drained the water of the beans, and we rinsed them with fresh water. Now we can put them in the pot with the onion and stir a little bit. Okay, ready to put the water in. We have to cover them. We put the fire on a higher heat until the water begin to boil. Oh, at this point we can even put inside the celery. Okay. Now see, it came to a boil, so there is enough water. We lower the heat and put the lid on. We have to keep it slightly open, and we will take a look every half an hour to be sure that the beans are covered in water, and to give a stir to the pot. Oh, one thing I forgot to tell is that now we use olive oil because we like it, and it is more healthy. But originally, this recipe and a lot of other recipe of the countryside, it was made with pork fat, because olive oil in northern Italy wasn't available, and butter was a really expensive ingredient. So if you wanna try to make it the really traditional way, you can use lardo or pork fat. Yeah. Oh, it is boiling. This is a sound I remember when I was a child in the kitchen of my mother. And let's look how it is going. Okay, there is still enough water inside. Now, how can we see if it is ready? When the beans will be cooked, they will melt, the skin will break, and so that will be the point to take the carrot and the celery and some beans out of the pot and blend them. An important thing is that you have to reach the right consistency before blending the vegetables, because if you have too much water into the soup and you blend the carrots and the celery and some beans and put back into the pot, it will be really difficult to keep it cooking, because it will bubble and sprinkle bean soup all around the kitchen. So be sure that you will have the right amount of water before doing the last step. But we will see how much water we want at that point later. Now here the noise is higher, so this means that there is less water in it. See, so we have to add some, and look, the beans are start to break, so I think it will not take too much time more to be ready. Just a little bit of water, okay. Now let it there for about 15-20 minutes. Okay, now it should be ready. Let's take a look. Yes, it is perfect. See, it is still moist and do not stick to the bottom of the pot, but it's pretty thick. So now that the beans are ready, the soup is ready, we have to prepare the radicchio, and we have to first of all clean the root. If you see that the root inside has a brown spot or is completely brown, you have to cut it off, because that could be really have a bitter taste. Then when I use the radicchio with the pasta e fagioli, I cut it in smaller pieces, because I will eat the radicchio together with the fagioli with a spoon. So it's for practical reason. So we cut it like this. See, look how beautiful it is inside. That is why it is called even the winter rose. And then we put in cold water and rinse it about 2 or 3 times. The bottom part we cut in little wedges like this. Okay. Okay, now we can switch off the heat and put the vegetables into this. We put even some beans. Okay, this is enough. And now we okay. Now we put see, it is pretty smooth, and we put it back into the pot. We can put a little bit of water inside to clean it well. Okay. So now we are pretty much done. We taste it. It's okay. Just a little pinch of salt. One more trick about pasta e fagioli, you can put inside some pieces of Parmigiano Reggiano crust, and then you get those small bites of Parmesan inside that gives a nice texture when you eat them. So this is our radicchio. We've drained and it's nice. It has not much water in it, and we dress it with some pretty generous amount of white vinegar, white wine with vinegar, olive oil, and some salt, and this is it. Okay, now we have left it to cool down for about 15 minutes, and you can see why it is even called the cioccolato di limone, because it looks like a paste with a beautiful brown color that looks like milk chocolate. Now we take a plate, we put some radicchio in a plate, we have put a lot of vinegar in the radicchio because since the soup is pretty sweet, the vinegar gives a bite that give freshness to the plate. Now we even put some oil from a jar of preserved aubergine, like I said at the beginning, because it has a lot of flavor in it. And then on top we put our beans that are not hot, otherwise they would cook the radicchio, and we want the radicchio to be fresh and crunchy when we eat it. So here it is. I hope you will like this recipe as much as I do. And one more thing, that we have made it with radicchio, but you can eat the fagioli di limon soup, the bean soup, even without radicchio. And in that case, the tradition in our countryside that has always had a strong Christian background and culture, is to make a cross with the oil and some drops of vinegar on top. So if you like the recipe, please leave a comment and tell me what you think and what you would like to see in the next videos. Bye, see you soon.